The management or ownership of KSTP-AM 1500 ESPN.
This is the place to talk about everything related to the home. Buying or selling real estate, financing and improvements that can help increase your home's value. This is Minnesota Home Talk on SKOR North. Here's your host, Jason Walgrave.
Good morning, Twin Cities. Welcome to Minnesota Home Talk. We are live every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So you early risers on Saturday, you get to hear us talk every Saturday morning. For the people that might not be up this early, good news for you is we are on Facebook Live, and we are also streaming to YouTube, and we stream to LinkedIn, and we're on every podcast service out there as well. So if you don't want to get up and listen to us live, you can find us on podcast, and you can tune into us, and you can rewatch us, which I know a lot of people do, right, Evan? Probably watch our shows good 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Let's define a lot.
I would say most people probably, there's so
most people in Minnesota definitely watch our stream multiple times a day.
Right.
Millions upon millions of views.
We cram like a full day's worth of info in 1 hour. So it just doesn't soak in that fast. So you'd have to watch it over and over again.
Just listen on loop.
That's the whole reason. It's the whole reason why we went to podcasts. So people could, really soak it in. But where can people find us, Evan? Did I cover it all? They can find us on
Facebook page and YouTube page. And of course, we have the website, MinnesotaHometalk.com.
There we go.
I think the Facebook is probably the main landing point. If you look at Minnesota Home Talk on Facebook, you'll find not only the full episodes, but clips and highlights, stuff like that.
Funny information.
Memes, contact information, pictures of good houses, all the things that you can want in life.
Are we on MySpace too still?
No.
No?
No.
No. Do we stream to any sort of dating websites? We in eHarmony or anything like that too?
Ooh. See, maybe that's an untapped market.
That would be.
Right? I think so. I might be onto something there.
I mean, we can stream to LinkedIn. I know that. And I know no one watches streams on LinkedIn, but we could do it.
We might have to look into that. We'll look into that for future shows. Phone lines are open. What do we got? Let's see. Phone lines are open this morning. So what we do is we take your questions live on air here, and we will answer them live. Pretty much anything and everything goes. We try to keep it to real estate, mortgages, credit repair, insurance. For those in studio here, Evan is actually our insurance agent then, as part of the radio show.
Yeah.
So not only does he produce our show, but he is our insurance agent for the show as well. So we like to play Stump the Insurance Agent a lot, get some nice calls in, see if we can make Evan sweat over there a little bit.
Yeah, don't sweat. You just always say, well, it depends. And you have hedged yourself adequately, and now you can say whatever you want. Because if it doesn't apply, well, obviously it was the other side of the it depends.
Is that one of your strategies, Brent, that you teach? Yeah.
What type of insurance are we doing?
So I'm mostly personal lines. I do property and casualty, and I do also have certifications for life, health, and long-term care. So
okay, good.
So phone lines are open. Let's see. We got, 2 pairs of T-Wolves tickets to give away.
Two pairs?
2 pairs. So 2 pairs of T-Wolves tickets. It's going to be to the 2 best questions of the morning. You can call in with your questions. That call-in number is 651. Oh, man. 647.
Yeah.
2910.
There you go.
651-647-2910.
Or
you can text us.
That's right.
At what number?
612-234-7585. Again, that's text line is 612-234-7585. Best question of the morning is going to get a T-Wolves ticket pair. And the second best question, because we've got 2 pairs of them. Pretty good deal.
Here we go.
Absolutely. And the T-Wolves are good this year. You guys been to a game yet?
No.
Aren't they on like a 5-game winning streak or 6-game winning streak, something like that?
Yeah. Have you been to a game recently?
Well, last year I went to a game and it was fun, man. It was really good.
So my prediction, and I called it last week. Pretty sure Evan was here. He heard me. You heard it here first. They're going to make the playoffs again this year, and I guarantee that they're going to win the first round of the playoffs this year.
Finally?
You heard it here first. Yep.
Okay.
And Evans insured that, I bet, too, right?
Right? Yep, absolutely. So here's a cool thing, too. So we got season tickets, and those are the tickets that we give away. So when the playoffs are here, we get to go to all playoff games.
Do you really?
Yeah, season tickets carried through the playoffs. So we got to go to a couple playoff games last year and stuff like that too. So
Who are these tickets for? Do you know?
these tickets, I don't know which games they're for. So it's your choice. You'll get a couple of choices of games, like which date can you go. You can grab the tickets on the dates you can go and stuff like that. So
generally, it's like within a week. So people getting contacted on Monday or Tuesday, and then it's like, hey, we've got these tickets for the next 2 or 3 games in town. Which pair is right for you?
Yep.
So there's some flexibility there. We don't lock you down. Obviously, the first winner, the best question, has the first choice, and then whatever's left is for that second best question. So keep them good. And again, if you got a question for us, call in 651-647-2910. That's 651-647-2910 for call in, or text us at 612-234-7585.
all right, Evan, you got that fire extinguisher ready?
I don't, but I do have a whole helping of hot listings.
Bam. So let's get to hot listings here first. So we're going to go to Minnetonka is where we're starting. We got a house at 4627 Ellerdale Road in Minnetonka. This one is listed at $975,000. This is a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 4,500 square foot home built in 1958. It's on a 0.6 acre lot. So it's got a nice big lot there in Minnetonka. Recently remodeled. You look at the inside of this thing, it is pretty amazing. They did a great job of updating this thing. Again, this one is at 4627 Ellerdale Road in Minnetonka, listed at $975,000. Going to Prior Lake, we got a house here, 2-story house at 3113 Grouse Circle Northwest in Prior Lake. This one is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 3,172 square foot home. This one's on just a 1/2 acre lot there in 2000, built in 2004. This one's priced at $499,900. Another home, I'm pretty sure this one, if I remember correctly, is in the Wilds. So again, it's 3113 Grouse Circle Northwest in Prior Lake, listed at $499,900. Going over to St. Paul, 1647 Ames Avenue in St. Paul. This one is listed at $329,000. This is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, just under 1,800 finished square foot home, built in 1900. Lot size here, another nice lot, 0.66 acre lot here in St. Paul. Single family house, priced right, $329,000. Again, that one is 1647 Ames Avenue in St. Paul. Going to Springfield, Minnesota. Buy yourself a single family home for $65,000.
Not Shelbyville,
Springfield. Steve, how many single family homes you got down there in Arizona for $65,000?
Boy, I don't know where you'd find anything like that.
You might
be a hard look.
You might want to pick up another investment property here in Springfield.
That could be
609 West Central Street
in Springfield,
in Springfield, Minnesota. Priced at $65,000.
Springfield's a nice little town.
2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,416 square feet. Built in 1940. It's on a 0.16 acre lot.
built-in garage,
You got a garage.
finished basement.
It's actually a cute little house. It's a nice little house in Springfield, Minnesota. $65,000. Going to Hastings, Minnesota. We got a townhouse over in Hastings. It's at 1075 36th Street West in Hastings, Minnesota. Listed at $252,500. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot townhouse over there in Hastings. 2-car garage. Built in 2004. Another nice townhouse over there. Again, listed at $252,500. And this one again is at 1075 36th Street West in Hastings, Minnesota.
Big fan of the lofted living room design here.
Yeah.
Where instead of having a wall there, you can see out from the dining area into the living room. And then up above that is your 3rd level. It's a pretty cool split level design.
I like it. Absolutely. I love that. We have a commercial opportunity up in Aurora, Minnesota. This is the Hive Bakery and
Coffee house, I think?
Coffee house and bakery. 103 Main Street North in Aurora, Minnesota. Listed at $590,000. You get the business and you get the building. So again, it's called the Hive up there. Coffee house and bakery. Building was built in 1955. It's on a 0.2 acre lot. Nice little opportunity there to own a cute little bakery and coffee house
In
shop right there
business
in Aurora,
yourself.
Minnesota.
Be your own boss, right?
Turnkey.
Turnkey. Yep. Going up to Merrifield, Minnesota, we have a nice lot on Upper Mission Lake, Lot 25, Ridgewood Drive in Merrifield, Minnesota, listed at $139,000. 1.48 acre lot. Nice big lot there up on Upper Mission Lake. So if you're looking to build your second home, or maybe you just want to have, a spot where you can pull up a camper or something for the weekend, grab yourself this lot up there in Upper Mission Lake, $139,000. Again, it's 1.48 acres.
I have broken it. We're fine. Everything's fine. Going to Newport.
Heading over to Newport, Minnesota, 1788 Hastings Avenue in Newport, Minnesota. Single family home listed at $245,000. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,680 finished square feet. Built in 1942. Lot size is about a tenth of an acre there.
Nicely done.
Nice little house there. Again, listed at $245,000. Address is 1788 Hastings Avenue in Newport, Minnesota. Heading back to Prior Lake. We've got a nice opportunity here to buy a property that's on Fish Lake. This one is at 20755 Addison Drive in Prior Lake. So it's located right on Fish Lake there. Listed at $775,000. 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,000 square feet. Built in 1984. 2.6 acre lot on the lake.
Boy,
Nice,
Yeah, it's a big lot.
nice big lot on the
who's
lake.
that?
Oh, it comes with the house. It's your
Oh,
mannequin
that's
friend.
okay.
To enjoy lake living with you.
Headless.
Yeah, well, as one does.
Seller will probably negotiate with you to keep that mannequin there if you want it. Absolutely.
Well, then it's got to go. Got to go with the house. It doesn't
yeah,
have to go, right?
yeah. You're not taking it without that
You sure
mannequin.
want that mannequin.
So again, 20755 Addison Drive in Prior Lake. It's a phenomenal opportunity. 2.6 acre lot right on the lake there. 775,000. 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 4,000 square feet. Great opportunity there. If you ever want to get on a lake, that's a great opportunity. Heading over to Savage, we have a lot for sale there. Sumter Avenue South in Savage, $113,500. Lot size is 0.64 acres, so it's a nice big lot as well. So again, Sumter Avenue South in Savage, $113,500. Going up to Lake Elmo, got a nice custom build up in Lake Elmo, 11610 58th Court North. Lake Elmo, $1.4 million for this bad boy. 5-bedroom, 5-bath, 5,055 square feet.
All the fives.
All the fives. Brand new build, almost a full acre lot. So another nice big lot for this custom built home. Again, 5-bedroom, 5-bath, 5,055 square feet, 1.4 million. As you can see from the pictures, pretty amazing house there. So if you ever want to get up in Lake Elmo, now's your chance. Great house there at 11610 58th Court North. Going to Shakopee, the biggest home we have for our hot listings right now. This one is at 2148 Kelly Circle in Shakopee. It's on a cul-de-sac, so it is a nice private lot. The lot is, again, 2.5 acres. Nice big lot there, 1.195 million. 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom, 7,000 finished square feet in this thing.
Wow.
This is your COVID house here. Get away from each other. You can pack good 6, 7, 8 people in there. You can still
Whole
stay away
world
from each
unto
other.
yourselves.
Fight the whole family over.
You can social distance in your own house. I mean, you can have Christmas in there with about 25 of your relatives and probably
You can
social
even invite
distance
your
in it too.
mother-in-law over
And still be
not
happy.
see her.
Yeah. So it's a phenomenal opportunity there in Shakopee, and it's in a private cul-de-sac. There's only a few houses on this road cul-de-sac. I know where it is. It's up on a bluff. So once you get past the trees in the background, you got views for days out there. It's a really nice lot there and location. Again, 2148 Kelly Circle in Shakopee, 1.195 million.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like that house in Newport for 252, but
Or Springfield for
that could-
65,000.
65,000, yeah.
Just a
I'll
little.
take that one.
And for our last hot listing here, we have a lot here at Sims Court, 16094 Sims Court Southeast in Prior Lake. This is a 9-lot development. You will have nobody building behind you or obviously beside you, yes, but there will be nothing built behind you because it's all park reserve behind this little 9-lot development. So it's a great opportunity. It's right across the street from Hidden Oaks and Twin Oaks there in Prior Lake. So when your kids are in school, they can literally walk across the street. This one's listed for $165,000. Lot size is 0.31 acres, so a third of an acre. Great opportunity, great location. Again, you'll never have anyone building behind you because it's all park reserve around this 9-lot development. So it's really nice location. Listed at $165,000, again, 16094, Sims Court Southeast in Prior Lake.
And if you have any questions about any of these hot listings, you can go to our website, minnesotahometalk.com.
Now, Mike, if I wanted to buy one of those lots, could I get some financing on that if I'm just going to buy it and then maybe build on it in 3, 4, 5 years?
You certainly can, yeah. You can get lot loans now for sure. Yep.
Might be a good thing to do.
And they're reasonable. You know, it's funny because construction loans and lot loans and things like that, they don't fluctuate with the market. You know, those are loans that are not sold on the secondary market, so the interest rates on them don't do this with the market that you would see out there for interest rates. I got plenty of people on right now on a construction loan. They're at 4.99 on a construction loan, where 30-year fixed rates are at 7.25.
Yes.
You know, so lot loans, same thing. We just got a lot loan going right now that will be closing next week. You know, and that's at 5.5.
Good way to kind of build so you got your equity in there. I mean, you might get your lot paid for in 4 or 5 years, and then when you go to build on it, you got a free lot, right?
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of times, even like construction loans too, a lot of people will buy. We're not ready to build now, but we want this lot. We want to tie this lot up. We're going to eventually build on it. We don't know when that's going to be, but that's right. Where we want to be. So then you do the lot loan, you tie it up. When you're ready to build, you basically refinance that lot loan into a construction loan, give you the money to build the house, and you're off and running. So
if you're really young, you could say get a lot while you're young too.
Yep. Get a little closer there.
There we go.
It was a little tough to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we got? Phone lines are open. 651-647-2910. That's the call-in line. We got 2 pairs of T-Wolf tickets to give away. So the 2 best questions of the morning are going to win those tickets. Again, 651-647-2910. That's the call-in number. If you want to text us, you can text your question as well to 612-234-7585. Again, that text line is 612-234-7585. Both ways get you in the running for those tickets, and both ways get your questions answered by us as well. All right. So we got some friends with us in studio, Evan. So I want to introduce our friends. First guest here, first time on the show, right?
It is the first time.
And we didn't tell him that it was video. He probably thought it was just on the radio, but he's also on camera now too. So hopefully he's not too nervous about that. But we got Mr. Brett Widman in with us. He's from Southwestern Consulting.
Yes, sir.
So he's a sales coach and a public speaker, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does. I've known Brent for, it's been a while.
It's been like 8 to 10 years now.
Probably something
crazy.
like that. Yeah. How I describe Brent is if you got called by your doctor and he said that you got about 1 day left to live, and you called up Brent after that and told him the story, his soothing voice and the way he speaks to people, he would turn that into probably about the best day of your life somehow.
Right.
That's
tell you to go buy some lifesavers, right?
Yeah. You know,
There it is.
Smart man.
he'd have good advice. The way he would speak to you, you'd be like, it's not so bad.
It isn't.
It's not so bad.
Yeah.
So that's how I describe Brent. Now, also in studio with us is no stranger to the show. It's Steve, the Yoda of real estate Perkins.
An old guy.
Now, why is he called the Yoda of real estate? I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it. I mean, the guy's older than the hills. Just kidding. No, he's been involved in real estate since 1973. So he's got a degree from McAllister. He's also attended the U of M and has some credits from the U of M. Taught real estate at Minnesota West Community College. Was a licensed real estate agent from 1973 to 1990. Currently owns 29 units. At one time owned 100 units. And has managed apartment buildings and bought and sold real estate and done that for all of his clients for a long time. So he's got a wealth of knowledge. And that's why he's in the studio with us today.
Yeah, you name it,
Still
he's
alive
done
to
it.
be here, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
What made you get into real estate?
Actually, my dad was in real estate, and he had left a previous vocation, and it was a good business to sell and manage property. And we were in a smaller town, and so we did farms and businesses and houses, mostly houses, but it was a fun deal.
Where are you from?
Pipestone, Minnesota. Home of the Pipestone Arrows. Right?
Well, I'm from Round Lake, Minnesota.
Oh.
Yep. Absolutely.
So we got Round Lake, Pipestone, Laverne.
Hey,
It's crazy.
Southwest Minnesota.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's it's interesting because the nice thing about having Steve here is the topic for the day was real estate then and now. If we look back, we were just talking about this last night too. When the Yoda was up last night and got there, we were chatting. If we look at interest rates, the hottest topic right now is interest rates in our industry, right? That's the hottest topic. So if you look back to 2010 to 2020, right, our interest rates were pretty level, hanging around somewhere between 4 and 5 the entire time. 10-year span where they actually probably hit like 3.875 maybe there for a hot second. Went as high as 5.125 in November of 2018. I'll remember that because we hadn't hit the 5s for 8 years, right?
That's right.
Interest rates were, high 3s to somewhere in the 4s for 8 years straight. Then all of a sudden, November of 2018, they hit 5.125, and everyone's like, oh, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they went back down. And then they kept on going down because COVID happened, and they kept on going down and going down. And next thing you know, we're doing 30-year fix at 2.5. Yep. At their lowest.
Isn't it?
So now we're at basically, let's just say 7.25 with no points. That's where we're at. So if you rewind 11 months ago, we were still talking about interest rates at 3% flat. Today we're talking about 7.25, right? So it's that crazy rise that everyone is talking about now. But we go back to when Steve was a real estate agent. I mean, he lived through rates that were as high as what on a 30-year fixed?
17%.
17%.
And I'd tell you, trying to sell property at 17% interest was a little bit tough, but it did happen. But the market probably settled in at about half of its pace that it had been, before that.
So let's talk about that a little bit because back then, Steve. So let's talk about interest rates were higher, obviously much higher than where they were now. What was the rest of the landscape like? Because right now you have, we have interest rates that basically doubled in the last 10 months. We have gas prices that are as high as they've been for a long time. The grocery bill is higher now. We have not only interest rates, but we have all this other stuff that inflation affects too. Right. That's also more expensive. Was it outside of real estate and interest rates? Was that the same case back then?
It really was. In fact, inflation, when, I'm old enough to go back and we didn't have barcoding back when you went into the grocery store or any place. And so, they actually had to have little stickers on the can of peas or whatever it is that you were buying. It had to have the price on there. And the checkout person had to actually key that in, just like an adding machine or something, key it in and add it all up. And you'd have this long tape of what you bought. And I can remember going in some of these stores and you would see 3 layers of stickers on the same can. Maybe it was something that wasn't real fast moving, like bamboo shoots or something. But, so it was 29 cents and then it was, 34 cents and then it was, 39 cents. Prices were rising that much. We had inflation. I think it topped out at about 15% and was just soaring. And so that's where we found actually the prime interest rate hit 21.5%.
So you could literally watch the price raise in front of your eyes.
It was almost that much. It wasn't quite like the hyperinflation days, but that's the tough thing that I learned out of that, and I did major in economics and things in college, and have really, it's lifelong learning. It isn't what you did last year or even 50 years ago, but you continue. And the tough thing, inflation is a very tough critter to wrestle around and get it back into control. And it tends to just keep going and going. People say, well, what's the matter? So we had, you could leave inflation at 8%. That's kind of livable, as long as my pay goes up with that and everything adjusts. Well, the problem is it's not going to stay at 8. It just tends to get, it's 10 and then it's 12 and then pretty soon you're like, Argentina where it's 89% or over 100% inflation, So we had that, and that was the scene. Now, obviously, things were a lot less. Expensive then, but it was all relative. If you made $1,000 a month, that was a darn good job back in the '80s. But you could buy a very nice home for $75,000. But then that cut when interest rates went. Those $75,000 houses were now $40,000, if you could sell them at all. So. It slowed things down. But that was inflation, and where did that come from? Well, the government was spending a whole bunch more money than they took in, and we had guns and butter, and kind of like it is today. Everybody likes it when the government sends them a check, but when they send too many checks, well, then you get too much demand, and prices keep going up because everybody wants to buy something, and so you got inflation, and then they got to cool that down before it takes over. So that's what we had, and I could just say, it went in 1975, for example, the prime rate was 7.25%. Basically, where it is almost like that today.
Right.
And in a couple years, it was at 9%, and then in 1 year, in July of 78, it was at 9%, and then and by the end of the year, it was at 12%, and by April of the next, a couple of years, it's 20%. And then the feds loosened it up from April to July of 1980. They went from 20% down to 11%. I mean, that was, if you look back at that, why did that last so long? Because it was 20%, and then a year and a half later, it's 21.5. So I mean, they were just jigsawing this prime rate up and down and all over the place. And of course, that was short-term rates. Home rates didn't, just like now, they don't go up and down quite that volatile, but they were still volatile. So that's one of the things they did not do a very good job of managing that. See, they were trying to bring it down too soon. So I know you got politicians and others saying right now that, well, the Feds, boy, I wish they should cut those rates and let's get back to where we were and this is okay. Well, that's what they did back then, and it went down, sure. Well, kind of did look like it was smoothing out. Well, then it came back. That's, again, inflation's a tough disease.
You gave me the antibiotic analogy. He's like, it's like when you go to the doctor, you're sick, you're taking antibiotics.
Yeah, they say take it for 3 weeks.
If you got to take it so if you got to take it for 3 weeks, well, after week 2, you're probably feeling fine, right? But if you stop taking the antibiotics then, if it's not completely knocked out, then it comes back worse than what it was before. Right. That's why you always have to see it all the way through. And
then they put you in the hospital, So the cure becomes worse.
Right, worse. So that's worse. So inflation, and it's funny that you say that because Powell came out and said that basically at their meeting this Wednesday, said, look, we're gonna do what we need to do and do what we can to get it under control. And we want to be over aggressive and make sure that we do get it under control versus being on the short side of things and not do enough to get it under control and then have it spin out again. So he's like, we want to be extra sure that we do what we need to do to get under control. That's why we're going to raise it 3/4 now, and we might even do it again, depending on what we see from the effect on this. But they would rather be too aggressive to bring it down versus not aggressive enough to bring it down.
Well, and I think they're trying to walk a very narrow path here because the one thing exists today that didn't exist back then. You got to remember, we got $32 trillion worth of debt. Well, if you start having a 10% interest rate, that means you got just the interest per year is $3.2 trillion. Well, that's about our whole federal budget. So where are they going to get that money? Well, then you got to borrow more money to pay the interest. And boy, what happens when the credit card comes and you got to pay the credit card, you got to take cash out on another credit card to just pay the interest on the one credit card. Pretty soon, I mean, that's I think pretty soon you're talking to the bankruptcy lawyer, aren't you?
Right.
Yeah. So not that we're going to get there, but I think the Fed is thinking about that. They can't have, I mean, if we had rates getting up in the 20% rate and the government is a short-term borrower, I mean, that would be like $6-7 trillion worth of interest that the federal government would have to pay. They can't tax that much. You can take all the money away from the 500 richest people in the country and just take everything. I mean, everything that they have, not all their income, but their houses, their planes, and everything else, and you still wouldn't come up with that kind of money. So for just one time, and then they're gone. So at any rate, I mean, that is a natural limit, I think, that we got that they can't hardly get. So they want to cure this before, because otherwise there could be problems. But
so let's talk about the opportunity for real estate back then. So what did it look like? What did it look like to buy a house then, back in the 80s when rates were that high? Were people still buying, or were people going to renting? But was renting also becoming more expensive because inflation that was that high, right? Yeah. So now rents have to go up.
Right.
So were people still buying, or what was the mindset back then?
You did, like I say, the market fell about half. I mean, so whatever you were doing, like in a couple of years before that, a normal market. So if you had 100 homes that were selling, well, now it was down to 50. If you had 10,000, it was down to about 5,000, 4,000 or 5,000, and roughly prices fell about 50%. So, I mean, it was but it was kind of a slower thing, and a lot didn't really change. And so I wouldn't say people lost. And when we were selling homes, we would do anything. They had these due on sale clauses in mortgages, and they were traditionally ignored. I mean, you'd sell stuff on contract for deeds and whatever. I mean, because just to get the house sold, and then not tell the lender, and it was risky. Legislatures were passing laws saying that they can't exercise due on sale clauses, and it was an very interesting time. But throughout all that, we did survive, and it did come around, and it would have been a lot quicker, I think, if the feds would have just held to a policy and not done this up and down and all over the place like they were doing.
So part of it sounds like what you're saying, that this has happened before.
Oh,
We've been here before.
So. Yeah,
the uncertainty's been there before.
We've been to this dance.
Yeah. And it'll happen again eventually.
Right.
But there's never a bad time to buy real estate.
I think that's a good point. Because particularly homes, Brent. I mean, people got to live someplace.
Yep.
And if it really gets bad, I suppose you go back and shove in the basement with your brothers and sisters at mom and dad's place, because mom and dad
Let's
are
hope that
probably
doesn't
pretty
happen.
conservative.
Do you want that to happen, Mike?
Well, my
We're talking about that last night. My oldest daughter.
They're up in heaven, so I don't want to. I'm going there, but I don't want to get there yet. But
Go ahead.
It has happened before, but we also have to remember we're talking about back in the 1980s, where a 30-year fixed interest rate was at 18%. Right. Folks, we're at 7. We're at 7 to 7 and a quarter.
7.
Right? We're not there yet.
We thought rates back. I mean, before these rates went up, I mean, interest was at 6.5 to about 8.5. That was deemed to be good rates. I mean, and historically, if you look at 25, 30-year money, I mean, 7% is a very recent rate. We just got kind of, I think, addicted to these low rates, but that's not going to happen. Again, I don't want to be a pessimist, because I'm an optimist as you look into the future. But it's the idea that if you say, "Well, I'm going to wait until the interest rates get back to 4," well, maybe your grandson or something or granddaughter will see that sometime, because everything, like you say, Brent, it happens, keeps happening.
Comes back around.
If you're waiting for that in the next few years, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see that. But
Well, that's how I was having a conversation one day, and I asked, when is the best time to buy a house? And he told me, he says, it's always the best time to buy a house.
Yeah.
Because you can always, whatever you pay now, let's say you need to refi in the future, you can do that as well. So there's never a bad time to do it.
That's
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. I said if you look back 12 months and you look forward 12 months,
Yep.
I think the next 3 months is the best time to buy a house. It's going to be your best time to buy a house, and that 24-month period is going to be November, December, and January coming up here. People kind of look at me a little weird, like, why? Our rates, like interest rates are at 7.25. We haven't seen that since the early 2000s. Why is now the best time? Well, let's look at the spring, right? In the spring market, you had a house listed at $400,000. Okay, you had to offer $440,000 to get the thing, so you had to go over list price. Okay, you couldn't get an inspection on it, because as soon as you put an inspection contingency on it, they're not going to take your offer. Yep. They're going to take one of the other 35 offers that came in.
And the inspectors are all busy, so they,
and so you couldn't get the seller to pay any of your closing costs. You couldn't ask them to make any repairs if there was a repair in the house or something that you wanted. Yep. You literally, the sellers drove everything. All the power was with them, and it's like, look, if you want this house. Your agent say, look, if you want this house, you got to go $40,000 over, no inspection. You got to make a decision in the next 20 minutes and get your offer in within the next hour. And
there's
you can't.
10 other people standing there.
There was 35 offers.
It would be like there was a heap of shoes. Not like, oh, there's a lot of shoes at the door. It's just a pile
of shoes.
Yeah, just like, oh, it's time to go. I'd have to start digging.
10 minutes to find your own shoes sitting there at the door.
Yeah. At the open house. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yep. So, but interest rates were 3.5, 4, 4.5. They're starting to creep up in the spring, but they were 3.5 to 4.5, let's say. Fast forward to now. So that same $400,000 house now, you could probably offer $380,000 and get it. Right? So now you're $20,000 under list price. And you can ask them to pay $10,000 worth of your closing costs, and you'll probably get it. So now that seller's netting $370,000 on a house, where before they were netting $440,000. You can get a home inspection. If repairs come up in the home inspection, you can go back and ask them to fix it, and they'll probably do it.
Yep.
You know, you could probably go on a showing and then talk to your parents about it. If you're a first-time home buyer, talk to your parents, set up a second showing. They could probably go check out the house, and now you can make an offer versus walking in and being like, hey, do you want it or not? You got to decide in 20 minutes because it's going to be sold in 2 hours.
And that's a big decision that you're deciding in 20 minutes.
Right?
It's a huge decision, and all this stuff, it sounds so different, but really this is how the real estate market is supposed to work and has right up until the pandemic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Markets,
Where the-
markets seek an equilibrium. I mean, that's what the purpose of a free market.
Right. So that's why it's the best time to buy a house is because the only thing that's worse now is that interest rates are higher. But look at all these other advantages you have as a buyer right now.
Well, you take in Minnesota too. What is the next 3 months? It's winter.
Yep.
And the perception is not as many people buy houses in the winter. It's really what it comes down to, is
Right.
what it seems like what you're saying. You've got to let it go. Do you know what I mean? Like, let the fact that there's higher rates go, because now you have all these other opportunities that you can do instead of just dwelling on this one thing.
That's the thing. You
That's all
definitely
it is.
have to get off the whole rate deal.
Well,
Because-
and there's two things to keep in mind, right? We talked about last week's show and the week prior, rate buy downs, how to make that work as part of your closing. You can have an interest rate significantly lower by putting an offer together that has a rate buy down clause in it.
Right.
yeah.
Which is great. Or you can just, hey, you know what? I think interest rates are going to be lower in sometime in the next 3 years. I'm just going to plan on refinancing my home when that happens.
You marry the house, you date the rate.
That's right.
That's what the deal is. Right? You buy a house today at today's prices to get the best terms on the house. You can't go back and change what you paid for the house.
No.
You can't go back and change the terms on the house. But guess what? You can go back and change your interest
Yep.
rate. Rates go lower, your finance a lower interest rate, you can change it like that.
Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you want someone to win these Timberwolves tickets?
I do.
I do too. So if you got a real estate or mortgage or history of
that's
real
right.
estate
Yeah.
or insurance, any of those types of questions, give us a call, 651-647-2910. That's 651-647-2910. Or you can text in your question at 612-234-7585. That's 612-234-7585. The best two questions of the morning are going to a Timberwolves game.
I have a question for you. So if you look at
Are you
based
going
off-
for the best question?
No,
of the day?
I can't. No, I'll give them away. Based off the last, or what you've seen in the past, what do you see, and maybe this is a big question, but what do you see the future the next year look like in the market? Will rates stay around the same? What do you see happening?
Brenton, that was exactly what I was saying. Given our
Yep.
national debt and stuff that the federal government owes, I mean, we're not going to see what happened before. Plus, I think the Fed learned from that.
Yeah.
You know, even these folks are pretty smart, and they kind of learn from past errors. And so when you look at
have to.
that they're not going to jigsaw it way up and down and bring it down too soon. I think the Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, was saying that this last time. So, I mean, if you look at that, I think we're going to see things gradually increase. I mean, as far as interest rates, they'll be raised. They're going to get it up here to what they really want is the interest rate to kind of equal inflation. Because if you think about this now, you can buy a house and pay 7% interest. Well, what's the inflation rate? About 8.5%. So if you think you're going to wait and get it less, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think we're going to see houses that market drop much more. I mean, it came off of this horrible wildfire peak where you had, like we were talking, you had 10 people waiting to buy it. Well, that's the kind of the worst time to buy
40.
a house, but 40 people, yeah.
Like this, I got stories up here that you would throw a listing on. You would have 120 showings set up in the first 48 hours.
Holy
So now they basically had to do showings in 15-minute blocks.
Micro showings.
And it was like you had 15 minutes because the next one is coming in 15 minutes too. So you have to be there on time. You got 15 minutes. You got to get out.
You
'cause
got
the next
60 seconds to look at each room, and that's like, okay, time's up, next room.
Yep.
And yeah, it was absolutely wild.
And they would say all offers due by this date and this time. And there would be 30, 40, 50 offers in.
Yep.
Is there a percentage across the board that raised the price of the house?
I mean, you were talking, I would say probably 10 to
least.
12% ish, maybe
think-
more in some markets.
But we're
Yeah.
talking about a 7% interest rate right now.
right?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's the
You've got it, Brent. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and so we've
that's-
just settled
we dwell
off of
on
this
that, though.
market, and I think things are now what I said about a market in equilibrium. It's a normal market where you got to come in and there's negotiations between buyer and seller, and the buyer's got a lot more power than what they did a year and 2 years ago and stuff. So it's a good time to buy. It's probably, if you got to sell, it's a good time to sell too. I mean, it's not a bad time to sell. This is, people get all alarmed and they think just because it's so different if you're on the selling side. But I mean, this is a normal market.
Yeah, we're in a normal market. And the other piece of this too, which is important to remember, we're curbing inflation with higher interest rates is the theory here. But we won't actually see if that's working in any real sense for a year.
That's right.
Because inflation is measured versus where we were last year. It takes 12 months to really see how those prices have gone. And so when we were in that humongous spike because of the low interest rates, it's like part of that is driven by the fact that, houses were getting multiple offers and closing sometimes 10, 15% above asking price. And, the price has risen in the last 3 years by 50 grand, 60 grand. That's a huge inflationary pressure. We're definitely seeing that cool off. My guess is that interest rates come down as soon as those metrics look normal again,
right,
which is probably 12 months from when all this correction starts.
Probably add a little bit, maybe more like 24 to 36, but it all depends on where they end up. But I mean, and how soon the economy responds, and frankly, if the federal government stops pumping in all this money, that people, of course, what do? I mean, like forgiving student loans, wonderful idea if you're a student, if you got a student loan. But what do you do with that money when they send that to you? You probably go spend it. Well, what does that do? It fuels. Now we got more demand in the market for whatever.
That's the concept behind it.
And
we
it raises
want more
price, and then that raises prices, and then we get more inflation.
So supply and demand. So everyone's like, well, how are our real estate values not going to keep going down then? Because we're talking about that too. It's like what do we see? Do we see home values actually going down, where we're not seeing appreciation, we're seeing depreciation? See, I don't think we're there yet either. Because if you look at inventory, you go back to 2007, 2008. That's what everyone starts comparing it to, right? So back then, what happened is that I think our industry kind of caused that. It was the loan programs that were out there. It was the appraisal processes that were in place. It was the loose lending,
stated income loans.
That's what caused that, because now you have a bunch of homeowners that didn't qualify, right? They shouldn't be owning a home, but because the loan programs allowed them to own a home, that's what kind of got us in that mess. We hit 45,000 listings. Active listings in the Twin City metro area back then, 45,000. Right now, today, we have about 9,000 homes for sale.
Really?
In January, that's probably going to go down to we're probably going to see 7,000 listings roughly in January.
Yeah, 7,000, 7,500, something like that.
That's what we're going to see going into the spring market. We're going to see about 7,000 to 7,500 homes in the market. So the supply and demand of real estate is that our supply is still super low.
Yep.
Very, very low. So that's what's going to keep home prices from really plummeting very much. I don't even think they're going to go down. I think they might level off, but I don't think they're going to depreciate. We're going to have the normal kind of lowering of home prices through the winter, because that's just what happens on a yearly cycle here. But going into the spring, I don't see home values going down that much. I still see our appreciation next year at about 3 to 4 to 5%.
Well, and that was a good point, right? That loose lending that we had back in 07 and 08. I mean, we had the same thing then. Housing prices were just skyrocketing, but you could go basically finance 100% of it. Well, when the market started to tip a little bit, all of those loans went belly up, and people just walked away from their houses. They didn't really have anything in them. Well, what's different now? Well,
everyone's got equity.
Loans, they got 20% down, right?
They got equity. Even if you bought it zero down 2 years ago, if you bought a $300,000 house and a VA loan with zero down 2 years ago, that house is now worth probably $350,000 to $360,000.
Well, it goes back to what you said. We're learning from maybe the mistakes that we made in the past, and we're not going back to where we were at that time.
Yep.
So we're learning from that. Really, is all it comes down to.
And we'll see how much we've learned. I mean, next Tuesday we have a decision point,
right?
So we'll see.
So Brent, going to you. I mean, so you do sales coaching, right? Public speaking. Do you work with any sort of companies? Do you do any sales coaching for companies, and whether it's real estate, mortgage, insurance, anything kind of tied?
Our predominant markets are mortgage, real estate, commercial real estate, insurance, across anybody who essentially is running their own business. So if you look at it today, who are the people that are consistently doing the things that they need to do? It's the people that are out working, the people that are out getting after it. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. That's the economy.
You mean those guys sitting in a couch back home kind of drinking beer at 10 o'clock in the morning and stuff? I mean, they aren't
Probably aren't going to be out doing what
anything.
they need to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit, because that's what you do. That's what you
Absolutely.
see, right? So, what's your week look like? Like how many people are you dealing with, and is it more of like a group type setting? Are you doing one-on-ones or?
So when I go in to speak, it would be a group type setting, put it that way. But on an individual basis, it's more of your top advisors, your wealth enhancement advisors, your real estate agents. It's people from the CBREs, Jones Lang, LaSalle's, the people that are essentially in the market. So having these types of conversations on a day-to-day basis, and it's how to not get caught up in exactly what we're talking about, not get caught up in
All the
stuff.
noise? All the noise?
Yeah, we'll call it stuff.
Yeah.
Is what I want to say. All the noise that's around us, and we can control that. We can control what we do on a daily basis, whether it's our schedule, our mentality, what we talked about before we started, the consistency factor that separates you from everybody else. And that's really what it comes down to. If we're doing those things that separate ourselves, life's going to be just fine. I'll tell you what, man, I don't get caught up a lot into the politics and the market and all that, because I know I can control my life. I know I can control how my family, how they react, what they do, all those types of things. So if you block all this stuff out, life's going to be just fine. You're going to be able to dictate what you want to
You
dictate.
still can have a lot of control over
Spot
your own
on,
destiny,
man.
right?
Yep.
It's when you're sitting there feeling sorry for yourself and sitting and
Drives me
then
batty.
doing nothing and whatever. I mean, yeah, then it kind of is a disaster then. But
A lot of times I'll ask for permission. Can I call you out on your crap right now? Because you got to take that stuff out of the equation. Because whatever we look for, and you know this, whatever we look for, we're going to find. Think of the analogy if you've ever bought in a car. You want to buy that blue Ford pickup, whatever the heck it is, that type of thing. What do you start seeing all over the road?
Blue Ford.
Exactly that. If I look for higher rates and oh my gosh, and what's going on in the market and what's going to happen,
you're going to get
what do you think I'm going to find? But if I go looking for, I'm going to be able to do this, I can afford this, I'll figure this out, what do you think you're going to find? And that's the shift in mentality for people. If you look over here, you're going to be just fine. So,
Yeah, I say there's a way to win in every single market.
spot on, man.
There is a way to
Yep.
win in every single market. The way you win now is, like I said, take that $400,000 house example. You don't want to go back to last spring and be a buyer, right? That
No.
same thing is going to happen this spring. Maybe not to that extent, but you're still probably going to be paying over list price this spring because everyone jumps in the pool in the spring as far as buyers go.
Super Bowl's over. Let's go shopping.
Yep.
Weather's nice, yeah.
Sellers know that too. So a lot of times sellers will wait for the spring, quote unquote, spring market to list their house, right? So you have sellers going on the market. You have buyers coming in there. It's going to be another feeding frenzy. You're going to have to offer over list price again to get that home.
You know, and
Why put yourself in that spot?
there's another way to frame this that I think we value convenience. And oftentimes we're willing to pay a little extra for convenience. I know I am, right? Not everything is necessarily about getting the absolute best, lowest dollar deal, because if it's going to take me way, way, way more effort
exactly.
and more time to get things done. If you were buying back in the spring, even if you did end up paying less for that house, you would have to go and look at 10, 15, 20 houses on average. The worst horror story that I heard from one of my clients that I wrote insurance for was they looked at 43 houses. What? And put in offers on all of them before they were able to get one.
Think of that, how that makes you feel.
Right, exactly. It was 2 full months of shopping.
The mental toll of
my
Every
goodness.
weekend going and looking at like 5 more and putting in offers.
Think how many trees were killed by signing all
All
those
that
lots.
the time and
documentation.
effort.
Thank God for e-signatures
Right,
is what I have
yeah.
to say on that. But
Well,
but the
ba-
point is even if you were paying a little bit less, how much is your time worth to you? Imagine having a second full-time job looking for a house for 2 full months.
Yeah, no.
Paying a little bit more right now and not having to go through that
Deal with that.
stress. Not having to go through we have to re-underwrite your loan because we rate locked you and it's been 60 days.
Right.
We have to do all this again. It's not like that now. It's a lot easier to be a buyer.
We
It's
bought a house a
worth it.
couple of years ago, and we put offers on 3 of them, and I was devastated after the first one, let alone 40 more of them.
Oh man, imagine going through that a dozen times and then becoming jaded, because I heard that a lot.
Yep.
Where it just became we stopped shopping for, falling in love with the house and the features. We're just gonna put offers in on things that we can afford. Right? We have this bracket, we have these areas. We're just putting offers in on everything.
You become numb to it.
Right. And in kind of a normal market, historically, I would say, you found 2 times where prices went up. And that was in the spring and really the late fall. And what happened? Well, it was stuff that was kind of overpriced during the winter, and didn't sell. In the spring, well, it was higher priced, and then that was what the competition was, and that was what people priced. And then at the end of the kind of the buying season over summer, the long summer months, you had another jump because stuff that didn't sell, it was too high priced over the summer. That's all that was available. So generally, I would say historically that we always should say, well, you might have to wait through the whole good time, and it's almost a next year sale because prices generally were creeping up all the time. And that was what we would call a normal market. And I think we're in a normal market now. So if you kind of think that things are going to get cheaper, you're really paddling against the good, because the reason for all this interest rates isn't because stuff is getting cheaper. It's because stuff's getting a lot more expensive. And that's why we call inflation.
I've never understood the concept of let's wait. Unless you can tell the future.
Right.
Why do we keep waiting? Because you don't know what's going to happen 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, do we?
Right.
But we tell ourselves, well, let's wait till the rates go down. Well, unless you're figuring out a way to time the market that nobody else
and
has
if you're
quite figured
buying a
out yet.
real, like taking a vacation or something like that, maybe that's a deal on that. But a house you're buying as a long-term
It's
investment.
a whole different ballgame.
And if you think long-term that the economy is going to be bad, boy, you're a real disaster person, because you better find a cave and get a little farm so you can grow some
You
food.
need an earth home.
Yeah, because
Concrete bunker built around it.
and then the next thing, a meteorite's going to hit us and the world's going to blow up, and
Yeah, but real estate prices will be cheap then after the
exactly.
apocalypse.
That's right. You might be the last survivor, and you could own the whole earth.
Right. And I think to some
Good
degree
deal.
there's just
we just solved the problem.
Hard to
There it
sell
was.
though,
That was
because
easy.
you got to sell it to your wife or something.
Yeah. There's a measure of that human psychology of where we want to be the greatest, right? We want to be the guy that outsmarts everyone else and is on it. And sometimes it happens. But the truth is, if you're thinking that, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the one that waits, there's dozens, hundreds, thousands of people thinking the same thing as you. And so, yeah, even if the rates do dip, there's going to be that crowd of people that didn't listen to our advice and start shopping now, and they're all going to pour right back into the market. And it's going to be just like it was before, where you have to start putting offers in on everything. So even if you manage to outsmart the experts, which is unlikely, you're probably going to be in a bad way regardless. It's not as though it's some magic bullet. You can't just say, hey, if house prices go down 20%, I'm going to be doing great. Except if house prices go down 20%, you might not have a job, because that's what we saw in 2007. People who were smart with their money and so on still might have got burned really bad by the market because of the broader economic collapse. And then they're not in a position to buy anyway. There's all these vacant homes and no one can buy them.
Well, and don't do now what people did back in those years that helped lead to this horrible fall, was people were stretching way beyond their income. And
Oh,
they were
absolutely.
lying on their loan applications, which you could almost legally do back then. And so you could, you maybe can afford a $400,000 house, but they'd go buy a $700,000 house and say that they made $100,000 more than what they did, and so, but we don't have that anymore. But a wise old guy, he was a guy. He was way older than I was. In fact, when I was your age, he was like my age, And but he made it. So this guy was old, but he made a
Can't even
good
count
comment
that
to me.
high.
He said, economically, you just kind of watch what's going on out there, and when everybody's running in one direction, he said, it's probably a good time to kind of turn around and slowly walk in the other direction.
Sounds like a Warren Buffett right
I think
there.
it was, and this guy was an old farmer, but I mean, and I
Same
thought
concept.
that's the same concept, So when like the stock market now, it's everybody's selling, the market goes, might be a good time to think about buying a little bit there. Houses, hey, the market's come down now. Not a lot of people in there. That's when you want to go buy stuff rather than be one of 40.
Run towards the storm instead of away from
Yeah.
it.
I mean, that's why I keep on saying the next 3 months is going to be your best time to buy a house. Looking back 12 months, looking forward 12 months, the next 3 months is the best time. You'll get the best terms on the house.
Right.
And you heard it here first. Yeah, with the only negative being where interest rates are at, but your rates will end up coming down at some point. You'll refinance out of there. Just make sure you can afford it at today's interest rate. You're buying at a price where you can afford it at today's interest rate.
That's right.
And
then you can keep affording it, and that's the main thing. I mean, rather than going and buying cars and other crazy consumer goods that kind of wear out, buy a house. I mean, you got to have someplace to live.
What's
until
your best
you finally
investment?
die and you're in an urn or casket or something, and then you still need a container to live. You're
Right.
not living anymore, but you still need a container to be in. So
still got to be housed somewhere. Phone lines are still open. We'd have just a couple minutes left here. 651
I'm going to put
647
the kibosh on that. We got 1 minute.
2910.
Don't call. If you got a text question, though.
Text in line to
Yeah,
612-234
get the tickets.
7585. Yeah, we just have a couple minutes left here. But yeah, I mean, I hate to beat a dead horse, but honestly, if you were looking last spring, if you were a buyer in the last spring and you ended up not getting a house, if you jump in the market right now, completely different experience for you.
Oh, yeah.
Completely different experience. For the better.
Absolutely.
For the way
I love
better.
it.
Right.
So, well, thanks for coming on the show, Yoda.
Great to
Always
be here.
good to have you.
I always say every day is a good day that I wake up and I look at the newspaper. I'm not in the obituary column, so it's got to be a good day.
There you go.
That's
Brent, thanks for
fantastic.
coming on.
I appreciate it.
We'll
man.
have to have
Thank
you on more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah, thanks for waking up early and coming here.
Meet you.
Well, what else you got to do on a Saturday morning?
Well, I mean, I can think of a lot of other things I can do on a Saturday, not going to lie. You know what? Next time you come on, we're going to have Evan. So, guys know the One Chip Challenge? Have you ever heard
you're
about
going to
that?
make me do this?
I did that on air last year for Halloween.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did it on an empty stomach, and it was extremely unpleasant. So
If
we'll eat
you
some
do it, I'll
bread.
do it.
Yeah, I'm
Evan
in.
wants round 2. So when we have round 2 planned, we'll bring it back on so you
Everyone
can
likes
witness.
a challenge. I'm
Yeah.
in.
Perfect. Love it. Well, thanks for listening to us, folks. We're here every Saturday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. You can also visit us 24/7 at MinnesotaHometalk.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us at any time during the week. Again, that's MinnesotaHometalk.com. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you next week.
This has been a paid program. The views expressed were not necessarily those of the management or ownership of KSTP-AM 1500 ESPN. You're listening to 1500 ESPN on KSTP-AM